Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ave Explores Catholicism Around the World. We are back for a whole new series, and we are back for our regular weekly Facebook and YouTube live conversations, eventually also shared on Instagram TV. We are so thrilled to be back with you. It's been a nice little break. We had the holidays. Of course, we're now into 2021, which is proving all sorts of challenging in all sorts of places all around the world. And we are so excited for this new topic that we are digging into, Catholicism around the world. What does the church look like on a global scale? What does the church look like in India, in Africa, in Ireland? What's the church look like in Canada, in South America, in Mexico? What's the church look like in the United States of America? And how is the diversity of the church, right? We look at it from this 10,000-foot view. How is the diversity of the church actually something that's quite unifying? Something that we can understand the church as universal, and the bigger the church is, the more particular it actually becomes. One of the anchors of this season, and one of the things you'll probably hear me say many, many times in the podcast, on the Facebook Lives, in the articles, I had the incredible opportunity in March of 2018 to travel to Rome for the I happened and I flew and spent a week with people from across the globe talking about the role of youth and young adults in the church. And there was a distinct moment on the first day that we were all gathered together. We were taking notes of young adults in the church today. And we were all taking these notes on these little notepads that they gave us. And I kind of just scanned the room, and we had this plethora of people from literally, again, all over the world. I was sitting next to somebody from Belarus. I hate to admit that I had kind of forgotten Belarus was a country. We had people from Germany, from India, from England, from China, from South Korea, an incredible man from Hungary who did not speak great English, but he would try so hard to engage in the conversation. And it was just incredible to be with all these people. And I looked around the room as we're all taking these notes, and all of our notepads had all these different languages on them. We were talking about the same topic. We were clearly addressing the same challenges that the church was facing, but yet we were all writing in our own language. And so we took those papers and we put them on the floor, and I took an artsy photo for Instagram above, showing all these different languages and yet showing our unity even in our differences. Seeing the church on a global scale like that deeply affected my faith. And that's what this whole series is going to be about. How is our faith challenged? How is our faith growing? How do we become better Catholics when we think about the church on that bigger scale, on that global the world? And we're kicking off our series by talking to two people who have seen the church on a global scale, who have participated and engaged in service to the church on a universal global scale. Father Michael DeLaney, the rector of St. Joseph's Oratory in Montreal, and Meghan Guilfoile, a senior at the University of Notre Dame studying business analytics. They're joining us today to have this conversation, so we're going to bring them on to the live and get started kind of digging into their experiences, digging into what they've seen, what they've heard, what they've learned. Thank you both so much for joining us on Ave Explores Live.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So Father Michael, we'll get started with you. Tell us a little bit about where you are, who you are, and what you're doing.
Well, I'm Father Mike DeLaney. I'm currently the rector at St. Joseph's Oratory in Montreal, which is a very important ministry of the congregation, founded by our Saint Brother Andre Bisset, dedicated to St. Joseph. And I arrived here last year after my years of service at the Holy Cross Mission Center. And through all the delays of COVID and all the restrictions, it was postponed. But in November, I became the rector. So I'm in my first number of months of serving as the overall pastoral and administrative leader here at the Oratory. My previous work was a number of years at the Holy Cross Mission Center. And prior to that, I worked in Latin America. I lived in Chile, where I was the head of Holy Cross, worked very closely with our missions as well in Peru, in Brazil, in Haiti, and in Mexico. And prior to that was so long ago, I can't remember, but I was at the University of Portland and in Chicago also at our high school.
Wow, that's quite the global resume. Thanks for being with us today, Father.
Thank you.
Meghan, you are a senior at the University of Notre Dame. Tell us a little bit about your experiences both at Notre Dame with Holy Cross Missions and with the Women's Boxing Club there.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'm a senior, and this is my fourth year boxing. So I've been blessed to be a part of the club for 4 years. And that actually is one of the reasons I was able to go abroad and work in Uganda, was because of the women's boxing team. So every year we fundraise, during our season, we fundraise for Holy Cross missions in Uganda and help to support 2 schools in Uganda. So it was a blessing to be able to go and teach at one of those schools, and meet a lot of the students who have been able to go to school because of a lot of the work we do here. So I'm blessed to be a part of the club and to have had that experience.
So we're saying this phrase a lot, Holy Cross Missions. So for folks who are listening, Father, can you give us kind of an overview? What is Holy Cross Missions? It's obviously something from the Congregation of Holy Cross, of which Saint Andre Bessette was a brother. So give us kind of the rundown, the definition, who the Holy Cross Missions is and what they're doing.
Okay. It's a broad question. Holy Cross was founded and given our authority by Rome as a missionary community. So the first missionaries from France in permanent missions came to what was the United States and to French-speaking Canada, but then also to what's now Bangladesh. And we currently serve in 16 countries of the world, 12 of which we would consider mission countries: India, Bangladesh, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Ghana, Haiti, Mexico, Brazil, Chile, and Peru. And that's where we have established ministries of education, of healthcare, of parishes, a lot of social justice work. And we have all the priests, the brothers, and the sisters of Holy Cross serving in those nations. So it's a very comprehensive mission approach. The Holy Cross Mission Center itself, a ministry of the United States province, serves particular regions that were served particularly by our province. And we also do much with Bangladesh, which was formerly a member until they got their own province status. We do all kinds of programs with Haiti as well, which is a separate province. But with Chile, Peru, East Africa are our primary international mission sites.
And what's the goal? You've got these mission sites. Are there schools? Are there hospitals? Are there parishes, communities? Obviously, what's the real goal in going into these communities?
Well, the original society is called the Propagation of the Faith, which was established years ago, I believe in 1939, to help financially support the missionary work of the church in the world. It's evolved greatly because we used to go from a time when missionary priests and brothers and sisters went to serve abroad. Now they've cultivated the church, and there are many vocations. Almost all the vocations are from within the countries where we serve. And that's much more realistic of what the missionary church is today. The church is alive and well in these countries. And we even find in the United States what some call reverse mission, when religious from other countries come to serve now in the United States. So it started out as raising money to help the missionary activity. I believe now so much of what it is to help build bridges between the churches across the world, between the expression and the experience of church across the world. And I often said that the Holy Cross Mission Center's part of its goal is to build bridges to connect the ministries, the services that we have, and also the people, the religious and the lay people engaged in our ministry as well, to connect us in our mission and in our religious life in Holy Cross.
Yeah.
And they always involve our collaboration with laity. And one thing that you will see in the mission countries where Holy Cross serves, we're not the only ones, but it's unique to us as well. There's a lot of lay involvement in the church. And that's something very important to the Congregation of Holy Cross. And you will find that even in cultures where perhaps the roles of women are not as valued or respected, but you will find that, or lay people, you will find that across the missionary work of Holy Cross.
I love that.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, a give and take. Y'all arrive to teach and to share and to aid, but then also learn something in return. You said that building
Of course,
bridges.
and that's what transforms us, and ultimately that's what connects us. So I like the image of a bridge because there's traffic both ways on the bridge.
Yeah.
And there's no tolls. Okay. But
that's true.
As a former New Yorker, I could talk about tolls, but that bridge connects us, and we have to look at what we have in common and the life of the church and the spirit of the church. And we're going to get to it later, I think, but there's so many things that help us be better Catholics because we're engaged internationally.
Yeah. We are definitely going to dig into that more,
Okay.
because I think as you see the church beyond just your own personal zip code, you start to realize, oh, like I'm not the center of the universe, and that there's so many other incredible things going on in the Catholic Church.
And you have that within the United States with the multiple cultures of the church and the role that immigrant communities for the entire history of the country have played on the church, and they continue to do so in the 21st century with new immigrants coming in and in different parts of the country where we might not always understand the language or even be able to read the words, but the music and the life of faith and the spirit, the art, that brings us all together.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Meghan, you arrive at Notre Dame and you hear about a boxing club raising money for Uganda. How did you get further involved, and what was that first experience like?
Yeah, so I was actually lucky where my siblings had already been a part of the men and women's boxing team before I came. So I actually said I would never join because I thought it was crazy that they would want to voluntarily get punched in the face.
For a good cause.
Yeah. Well, so, and that's what I was about to say was that, I mean, the mission that both the men and women's team has and what it's centered around is really what is most appealing about the club to me. And so when I got to Notre Dame, I had always been involved in service, and it was something that was very important to me. So it was something I was looking for when I came here. And Notre Dame has a lot of opportunities. So in some ways it was a little overwhelming. So but the boxing team was really appealing because I have always been involved in sports, and it was important to me to continue to stay active, and I loved the team environment. And so I really saw it as a great opportunity to bring my service and my, desire to be a part of a team again together in one thing, and really put all of my effort into that one club. So, I mean, now I'm here the fourth year, never thought I would be a part of the team in my fourth year of boxing. So it was by far the best decision I made coming here.
And so you, as a result of that work, pre-COVID days, you got to travel to Uganda. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that was great. So that was a part of Notre Dame's International Summer Service Learning Program. So I was very interested in doing that program in general. I thought that was a great opportunity. I had already served in Rwanda in high school and really wanted to go for a longer time and really commit myself to serving in those communities. So I was interested my freshman year, and the women's team actually was not involved in the program yet. And I ended up not doing it my freshman year, but then I learned that the women's team was offering to partner up with the Center for Social Concerns and send a boxer over through this International Summer Service Learning Program. So I kind of saw that as, a calling to say, this is what I was meant to do. This is where I was meant to go. And so it was a really great way to bring my service to the next level within the boxing team and community. And it was an incredible experience to bring, my boxing experience on campus to somewhere abroad and to, the school and the community that we help to fundraise for every single year.
It makes it real. I mean, it's no longer just we're sending a check or we're doing this, car wash. That's not what y'all were doing. But oftentimes I feel like we do these fundraisers or we do these things where we want to help, but then we never actually get to see the help that we're doing or the life that is lived there that we're hopefully helping improve. Father, you made that analogy at the beginning of the bridge of this back and forth. As Catholics, there's great value to seeing this bigger scale. What do you think? I mean, as we're kicking off this Catholicism Around the World series, you mentioned all the different places that you've been. As a priest, did you ever imagine that would be your ministry, getting to literally, globetrot when it comes to your service as a priest? But then B, how can I, as a, suburban mom, how can I maybe take advantage of that myself or even understand the church on that global scale? What's the benefit of that?
I never, I'll answer maybe a roundabout a bit. I never imagined I would be in the mission center role And so the life of visiting our international communities and getting to know them well isn't like traveling to London, Paris, and Rome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to, Kampala, Dhaka, Port-au-Prince, and Lima. And we're experiencing on the ground where Holy Cross lives and serves, and with the religious from those areas. One of the most important things I think the church helps us to do, and I believe religious communities international religious communities have a very important role, is helps us to see one another as God created us as equals. It helps us to see one another as sisters and brothers. And my fellow religious priests, brothers and sisters at Bangladesh, we have the same vows that we have in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the same congregation, and obviously we belong to the same church. The expression of it culturally might be somewhat different in certain ways, but there's so much more that's in common. So I think that we have this very important role as far as even being peacemakers, but to help bridge people and bring people together. So I think that's one of the kind of the background realities of any work that we do, this opportunity that we're given as a member of an international congregation in the church. I have to say, as Meghan spoke about the women's boxing team and also for the men's, I worked with them somewhat to help, facilitate certain things with both East Africa and Bangladesh. It's amazing because you see the transformation, you see the interest, the world grows bigger. Mm-hmm. So much so that some people at Notre Dame, their formative experience has been this work with Holy Cross through their life at Notre Dame. And an interesting image, and I think this is one to hold on to, there are boxing gloves that hang in the schools, both in Uganda and all over Bangladesh, where the men have been boxing for 90 years. And you're at the end, what you think might be the end of the world, the end of the road. You get to a place, beautiful place, people, and you see a set of boxing gloves hanging, and you know that that's the relationship. Okay, so there's a permanent reminder that's not just a set of gloves, it's a sense of commitment. Mm-hmm. That is one example of what we have with our support of our benefactors, of those who share with us their time, their talents, and their treasure, their donations. That's one of the important things is people have ways of engaging personally, to learn about it, to share what they can with others. If they can make a donation or give of their time and their energy, to give to that, and then because they're going to receive so much back as well, just an opening of their heart and of their lives. And then people bring it back to their families, that they meet people from other places of the world, and that just opens up the mind and the heart of the family. So I think that's what happens wherever we serve and our international missions that we go to. Yes, there could be a different language. When you say, had I ever imagined this? I always wanted an international career. I studied at the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University. My hope was to work at the United Nations. That was my dream one day. Well, I've kind of always had that in Holy Cross, whatever it's been that I've done, and I focused on it. And so I think that it's been a great path for me personally, but also where I've been able to live my vocation as a religious as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful that you had this one particular vision. God always has a better vision. There's always a better story that he's ready to write. Meghan, you arrived at Notre Dame. You're studying business analytics. You get to go to Uganda. What has that done maybe for your studies? How has that affected your own personal faith? I mean, like Father's talking about, it opens our hearts, it expands our minds. How has that happened for you?
Yeah, so a lot of what I learned when I was there was how to approach service in a much different way, which I really appreciate. It really helped me understand. Everyone always says, immerse yourself in the culture, never go and think you know everything, because you don't. And it's so much easier said than done. And, I did go into that thinking everything I could and trying my best to make sure I never acted in that way. But working, with my students, and I even worked with a nonprofit as well when I was there, and being able to be a part of the community, I really learned the importance of the fact that I know nothing when I arrived. So it was really valuable to be, in a business culture as well when I was there, because it really helped me understand, even for when I, start a job one day, I know nothing about the company I'm working with or the people I'm working with. And there's so much value in listening and asking questions and then asking more questions. So I think that was really valuable just in life. And then especially in, the career I want to have, that it's important to always listen and, just pretend that you know nothing, and be able to be, vulnerable and be willing to learn, I think is the most important thing. And I think that's important in our faith too. It's important to ask those questions and have trust, but be able to, not be afraid to ask why this, why that, why is it this way, or why should this happen? So I think it's valuable in both worlds.
Pope Francis in Christus Vivit talks about the posture of God is one of listening, right? God listens to us. And so it sounds like in your experience there, you got to really take that posture on. I'm going to listen, I'm going to learn, I'm going to watch, I'm going to observe, share what I know when I've built that relationship with people. What did you see perhaps that was unique about the Catholic Church specifically in Uganda, the way they worship, the way the people of Uganda, perhaps engage in community? What did anything stick out?
I think the two biggest things that stuck out was that the church there was so involved in the community. Where I was living and working was very rural and very remote, and everyone walked to church. Everyone came to church and stayed for such a long time. Here we're so busy and we don't take that time to sit in mass and then sit another hour after mass to talk to your community, to your priest, to your brothers there. And so I really appreciated that aspect of taking the time to not be rushing everywhere and, live in community both before, during, and after mass. And the other thing that I really appreciated was how vibrant mass was. There was so much singing and dancing and expression of faith and everything. And so I just think that was just a different expression of how, it's different than how we maybe celebrate mass, where it's, softer music or, more structured and everything. And there it's more of just expressing your faith and dancing when you feel it coming and all that stuff. So I thought that was a very beautiful difference between the two masses. Yeah.
We have some nuns in the Diocese of Lake Charles from Uganda and Nigeria, and they host masses before COVID. You could go to their mother house here in town, and mass was always 3 hours, and that was considered short. And it's always a good. I would go once a year. It was always a good mental reset of we're on God's time when we're in this room, and we are not going to worry about my phone is off and probably filling up with messages that I need to reply to. There very much was a posture of I'm committing my time to this. Father, you've seen the church all over the world. You listed all those countries. What are some unique expressions of faith that you've seen in Haiti and Peru and Bangladesh? I know very little about the church in Bangladesh.
I knew it through some of its people before, but getting there, I tell you, it's been transformational. One of the things, in thinking about East Africa, about the expression, being at masses there, I just remember bringing the book of Gospels in to read the gospel could be a 20-minute dance procession, and the reverence of it, and everybody's moving, and the people are bringing it. If it's an inside mass and outside mass, the people are celebrating the arrival of the word to hear it. I mean, that must be every liturgy professor's dream. That, Father Peter Rocca, who formed us at Moreau Seminary for years, it must be his dream, because they're all present and they're all there and they want that. So there's so much, and you have the local instruments, especially drums, flutes, that people will use in whatever part of the world, their own instrumentation for the music. So I think the local expression, I remember when at the time of reading the Gospels of the resurrection narrative, and reading that at the first Easter Mass I was at in Chile, all of a sudden everybody starts ringing bells and they start clapping in the middle of the gospel, and it's just beautiful, and so moments like that are so unique, just they catch your attention and you think that's beautiful. That's what they're expressing. Bangladesh is so interesting because of the long history that Holy Cross has there, and since 1857, like half of the bishops of Bangladesh now are Holy Cross religious. The one cardinal that Pope Francis made is Father Cardinal Patrick Rosario of the Congregation of Holy Cross, and our second cardinal in our history. He is one. And what was amazing is being in a Muslim nation and being such a religious minority, the impact of Holy Cross in education has been phenomenal. Given education to so many people that would be closed, and most of the students are Muslim students, especially at our big schools in Dhaka or in Mymensingh or Chittagong. In the tribal areas, tribal there really just means indigenous areas where Holy Cross serves. The strength of the church is there now, and that's where so many of our early missionaries spent years of their lives cultivating, and now it's full religious priests from there, including one, Garo, young man studying for Holy Cross, who's currently at Moreau Seminary on an exchange from the province in Bangladesh as well. So you see the growth among the indigenous peoples and the expression of that. I was in this one conversation with the pastoral leaders of the parish in what's called Tansi, which is in the hill tracts area. That's the furthest end, the border with Burma, with Bangladesh. People speaking in Bangla, Garo, Tripura, and a couple could speak English with me. But we had a great conversation. And I learned about the church and the lay leaders. And I said to them, I said, what are the biggest challenges of doing this ministry? They might walk for 2 days to the next village that's a part of this parish. And I was expecting to hear, oh, we need more money, or we need more of this or that. They told me climate change, because the environment's changing. The community is being divided if the river dries up or if the planting season can't produce anymore. They know the environment's changing. And then that was the same time that Pope Francis puts out the letter of Laudato Si. It came alive to me in a way that my meager attempts at recycling or whatever I might do, these people, very poor, alive in their faith, of everything they needed was, how do we solve climate change? Because they want to keep their communities together where they can serve them so they can live their faith and they're not divided. That impacted me maybe more than almost anything else. I think another is, and we often find it, I hate to point out just because of economic poverty, but in a place like Haiti, clean water is available to 28% of the population. The people of Haiti are very faithful, whether they're Catholic or other Christian, attending Mass all the time, participation in the church, and a little what Meghan described as in Africa, the life of the church. The parish is the center of their community. They will do everything amidst, even in such difficult situations, and to see Holy Cross committed there in education, to change lives, to see their parish work, to bring people together for their families, to raise their families in the faith. It's so meaningful. It's really, everywhere you go is a different experience. And then to see where in Lima, for example, and Holy Cross serves in a very impoverished area of Lima. What they've done for the last more than 40 years, probably 50 years now, they've served these people, now 300,000 people on these hillsides outside of Lima, in the service of the poor, for their medical needs, for the Center for Children with all kinds of disabilities and their families, to serve them, even if they're the poorest, to give them hope, to their families, to them for a future. It's amazing. All of this goes on as a part of the church and as a part of Holy Cross. So as we tell that story, after our experiences and others get to know it, you know, that's what generates this interest in our missionary life in the church. So whoever hears it, when they have an opportunity, they're going to make a difference in the world. And it might not mean for an international mission, but it might be for the poor who are part of their parish or the next parish or somewhere else, because they're connected as church.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating that, I mean, you ask them this question, what's your biggest challenge? And they say something that we might not have ever even thought of ourselves.
Right.
Because of our lived
And they live
realities.
it.
Yeah, been
we
there in the front
know
lines of
that the poor of the world who live closest to the coastal regions in the most impoverished parts of the world are those primarily affected first by climate change. Okay.
Yeah.
They're living it and it's changing their lives, but it's also going to have an impact on their life of faith and their communities if they can't keep the communities together.
Yeah. We actually have a podcast episode coming up in the season with a friend of mine from Samoa talking just about that.
Exactly.
He works in the secular world helping fight climate change, but he ties it, and it's a great conversation how as Catholics that's actually something that we should care about. As somebody recently affected by 2 hurricanes and an ice storm, I've seen climate change, it feels like up close and personal, and yet at the same time it's like, well, how is my behavior actually going to change? Maybe this is something that should compel me as a Catholic. As we're reaching the end of our time here, Meghan and Father, I want to give you each just one last chance to kind of, as a Catholic in the United States of America, Meghan, Father Michael in Canada right now, but have been globally. I mean, what have you learned from your experiences seeing the church internationally? Just how, again, has that maybe affected your own personal prayer? How has it changed the way that you go to Mass on Sunday? Hopefully, is a little bit of encouragement to folks as they launch themselves into this Catholicism Around the World series. Meghan, if you want to start.
Yeah, sure. I would just say that I think it's important to, educate yourself on the different ways to pray and the different ways that other people pray, because I really thought it was so valuable to see, as Father DeLaney was just saying, how vibrant the communities were in East Africa and how vibrant the church was. So I think it was so, beautiful to learn how other people pray and to learn it doesn't have to be the way I've always learned it. Like I can grow in how I pray and how I, live out my faith. So, both through service and, just being a part of Mass with my community was a beautiful way to learn, just how to grow in faith. So I would just say, continue to learn and continue to be open to growing.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you, Meghan. That was great. I think it just opens us up and opens me up, renews me in just seeing one another as sisters and brothers, and we're in the same church created by the same God. Don't even all need to be Catholic. We're all just connected. If you read Pope Francis's pastoral letter on Fratelli Tutti, okay, we're all sisters and brothers. It's very recent. This speaks about it. This lives it. We're living it. And when we get these opportunities to live the multicultural international life of the church, we can open our eyes and our hearts to see one another, because there's so many signs and situations in our lives that are almost attacking the universality, and this is something I think the church has to offer, as we do too. We're part of that one body of Christ. And I do think that the Pope's letter on Fratelli Tutti is a very important document that helps us understanding that we're all part of this missionary church and there is a connection. And the image, if you look at nativity scenes from around the world, something? That's how they envision Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. The way they look is how they've expressed their faith. And they all mean something for them at Christmas. And we all celebrate the same Christmas. So it's like an image that we see a lot of artwork of depictions of Jesus, of the Holy Family, of the Last Supper. As you see it depicted from different cultures, there's such uniqueness, but it means something to them, and that culture is expressed. And I just think it's a great gift that we're living, and we have an opportunity to share it.
Yeah. Well, Father, Meghan, thank you both so much for sharing your thoughts, for being with us today. This, of course, will be broadcast on Instagram TV and will be shared. So hopefully more folks will even more people will get to see it. We'll get to have this further conversation. Thank you all so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much, Katie. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Great to see you, Meghan.
You too.
It's fascinating to me that as we have these conversations about Catholicism around the world, we think about the church from that global perspective. It's like Father said, we build these bridges, and it's a two-way bridge. we can give something about our own personal experiences of faith, our own Catholic culture, wherever we are, but we also learn something from the person that we're with, that we're having this conversation with. And I would encourage everyone who's listening, who's watching, who's tuning in, whenever you're watching this, if you hop on over to avemariapress.com, you can sign up to get our weekly emails for this Catholicism Around the World series. They'll be starting next week. Every week, you'll get a couple of podcast episodes, an article, some Facebook, social media exclusives, another live conversation that we'll be having with guests from around the world to continue digging into, well, what does the church look like? What does the church look like there? How are people praying over here? As Father said, what does their nativity scene look like? And how do they envision Jesus and the Holy Family? And how can I, in my own lived experience, wherever I am in the world, and we know, of course, that it's not just Americans who participate in our series, how am I affected and changed and perhaps can grow in my own Catholic faith? So you can click on over to avemariapress.com to find all of that content. It's just right up at the top of the website. You'll see free resources. You click down, you find the Ave Explorers link, and you can see not only this series that we have starting, but all of our other series on mental health, on social justice, on the Catholic family, on saints, all of these incredible things that we've created. This week on our podcast, we have the incredible honor of chatting with Cardinal Wilfred Napier from Durban, South Africa. It's an hour-long conversation where we really dig into the church in South Africa and his experience growing as a seminarian who studied in Ireland, who came back to South Africa during apartheid, what it was like as a young priest during the racial tension that existed there. It's an incredible conversation. And we also have a conversation later on in the week with somebody from Australia talking about the efforts of the bishops evangelizing Australia, Malcolm Hart, who works for the Bishops Conference. So you can find the Ave Explorers podcast wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. You can find it on our Ave Maria Press website as well. We are so excited to start this series, so excited to dig into this topic. We hope that you join us. We hope that you sign up for the emails. We hope that you find out more about Holy Cross Missions. We'll have their website linked as a resource on our Catholicism Around the World pages. And again, we are so grateful that you joined us today for this first conversation of our series on Catholicism around the world. We're so grateful to have had you with us. See you next week for a conversation with Father Harrison Eyre about Canada and the church in Canada, the crises that the church in Canada is facing, and specifically the vocations that they are trying to build in the Canadian church. So we'll be back on Tuesday at our normal time at noon on Tuesday for that conversation on the Ave Maria Press Facebook and YouTube pages. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you soon.